I had to invent this person. David Goggins is an introverted, soft kid that got beat up growing up, and mindset had to lie to create friends, to get friends, to be accepted. So my life has really been about two people. Very scary, but two people. I had to invent a whole nother human being to get outside of my comfort zone. And that human being became Goggins. Goggins is like the guy that walks out of the phone booth. He's like that Superman that walks out of the phone booth. And I was talking to my fiance today about, it's kind of strange how sometimes I have a conversation between David Goggins, and Goggins will tell David Goggins about the shit he's done. And David Goggins like, what the hell, man? Why are you doing that? That's nuts. So it's kind of this battle between trying to find more of yourself, knowing that the real you is afraid, likes comfort, likes living in a world that is that likes to pat you on the back, give you the things that you want to hear, not the things that you have to hear to get better. So that's where all this kind of started from. And when people hear this podcast, they're going to hear a lot of things that they're going to want to put a title on me. They're going to definitely want to put a title on me to make themselves feel better. I asked them during this podcast, do not do that. Do not look at what you're going to hear. Put a title on me, because basically what you're doing is you're giving yourself a get out of jail free card. Exactly. That's all you're doing. So all you're doing is saying this guy was some super freak. He found some super thing in his brain that was locked up. He unleashed it and became this guy. It's a fucking lie. Because every day I wake up, I dread the day. I dread the day of what I'm going to bring on myself to get better. You know, I was sitting on the couch, saw this show on Discovery Channel, and that started the process of, I think I want to be a Navy SEAL. So I started calling up different recruiters, walking into some guy said to me, you're fat and you're black. He was an observant motherfucker. You know, I was 300 pounds, black guy walking, he was very observant. So that kind of went on for a while, and until I met one recruiter. And one recruiter saw something in me that no one else saw, and gave me a shot. And
a challenge, right? Come back, lose the weight.
Right. So basically I walked in, I had about 3 months, a little less than 3 months to lose 106 pounds. So I was like, this is fucking impossible, man. I can't do that. And at that time I had no real drive to be a Navy SEAL, to be anything. I just knew something had to change. That I had to, that this isn't gonna work, man. This lifestyle that I'm living, something has to change. So I went to work that day and I was spraying for cockroaches, and lo and behold, it's a very bad day at work. I found a whole bunch of cockroaches, rodents. It was a bad restaurant. And I came home, I quit my job that day. I was driving home, I said, I gotta fucking do something. And I said, I'm gonna go home and run 4 miles. And 4 miles is only a quarter mile. And then from there, the story really begins from that point. Well, that's what I realized for myself was I wanted that comfort zone that everybody looks for, that pat on the back. They don't want to hear all the bad shit. They want to hear everything that they're doing right. And I realized that's what kept me in this world. That's what kept me in this world of not accomplishing anything. So what I did was I became that big, bad, nasty motherfucker that you don't want to walk into at nighttime. I became the roughest critic in the world on myself. And that's what changed me. I literally saw myself in the mirror. I saw the truth versus saying, you know, my dad did this to me from beating me, kids in school from calling me did this to me, my life did this to me, my fucked up broken foundation did this to me. I took that and said, you know what, well, some people may help this happen, but now I have to own this. No one's gonna come back to save me. No one's gonna come back on this fucking couch and say, hey, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna be okay. I had to realize I had to take a stand. I had to make a real stand. And it was painful to look at who I was, what the world and myself created. It created a very lonely, depressed, insecure man that would do anything just to have a friend. And I saw that as very pathetic. When you look at the truth, it becomes very ugly and pathetic. I'm really good at creating an enemy. I'm really good at creating something that I'm against. And I'm also good at, if you ever tell me something that I cannot do, I'm gonna let you know that I'm doing it. Right. Somehow you're gonna fucking know one way or another that I'm doing it. It may not be like in your face. I may make sure that I run across the daggone world. So then it's on the news, and you turn the news on and say, how the hell
did he do that?
I want to do something that you know I'm here. I'm here. So every time I lose like a big significant amount of weight, I call that recruiter up and say, hey man, I'm here. I'm here. And before I knew it, man, this guy became almost like my best friend at that time, because I started actually changing his life. He started seeing, wow, man, like, I'm glad I took a shot on this guy.
Right.
And not only did I lose weight, I had to go back and take the ASVAB test again. It was like a watered down SAT a couple more times just to get in the Navy SEAL. So it was a big process. So that 3 months was packed full of like failures, depression, even more. But what I found out in that whole 3 months, I lived a lifetime. In that 3 months, I started realizing if I can flip these insecurities upside down, if I can flip this fear, if I can flip all this shit that made me this depressed, insecure guy, if I can flip it and make it work for me versus against me, I started seeing the power in failure, the power in insecurity, the power in self-doubt. Because I looked at everybody, it may not be true, but that's how I looked at everybody as being way above me. I thought to myself, if I can be at the lowest part in the world, in the sewer, and be able to overcome all this shit, I started using that as power. And I slowly started passing the guys from Harvard, the guys from MIT, the guys who were from great families and shit. I'm like, oh my God, I'm catching up. I had nothing. So I started flipping it and using it as power. Well, there's something that I invented a long time ago. And when you have nothing to draw from, I was able to find strength in every molecule of this earth. I'm able to be in a room with nothing, with no motivation, no inspiration, nothing, and find it. So what I did in those situations was I invented this thing called taking souls. When everybody's all fucked up and you're exhausted and you're weak and you're tired and you're looking around and everybody looks as bad as you or even worse, I'm like, you know what? I want to now make a statement. It's the perfect time to make a statement. To make a statement to let you know where your life ends and mine begins. And so the statement there is, I muster up every bit of strength from their looks on their faces and how they feel, and how I'm going to now, from my childhood, where I came from, how I was the bottom of the barrel, I'm now amongst all these uncommon people. I'm now going to now make you feel like you're common. So I used their sadness, their weakness, their parts of their life where, God, this sucks. I'm like all poopy pants and messed up. I used that for my strength. And I have this moment of like, let's say we're in the sand, we're running or whatever. I will do a surge. I will do something when everybody's like, how the fuck is he doing this? And from that look on their face, that feeling of, God, man, this guy must be something special. It then surges me further and further and faster and harder for a long time. So it's energies everywhere. But the thing is, it's so loud, that voice in your head of pain and suffering and discomfort and I don't want to do this is so loud that you're unable to really calm it down and say, okay, there's something here. It's a patient calm that you have to bring to yourself to say, I know I have something here, but that voice is so powerful that it just wants you just to, let's leave.
Right.
We're done. It spazzes you out and you want to go versus saying, let's take a second. Hang on. Before we spaz the fuck out, hang on. And in that moment, you can think clearly and find that strength out there for you. I'm the only person in the history of the military who has ever gone through Air Force Tactical Air Control Party training, Army Ranger School where I was an Army man in 3 hell weeks. Yeah. So only person to ever do that. But the reason why I did it was when I was a young kid, I consider myself very weak. Very weak. And as I started developing this indestructible mental toolbox, because what I realized was the things I was most afraid of, I cowered from. I had to start facing these things and becoming an expert at the things I feared the most.
Yeah.
I was afraid of my own mind. My mind would get off on these crazy places of woe is me. My internal conversation wasn't great.
Yeah.
So I had to start mastering it. Once I started mastering it, in the horrible place I was at, I consider myself the worst person ever alive. That was my conversation. But once I started mastering my own life, I started realizing, my God, man, this was in me.
Yeah.
I was a 300-pound fat guy. Now I'm 181 pounds, 190 pounds, whatever it was. I'm gonna go through all these hell weeks. So I started realizing the capabilities of the human soul and the human mind.
Yeah.
So I started to examine it more and more. So we have a theorist and we have a practitioner. The theorist is a person that's gonna sit back and read books from a library that someone else wrote. They become real smart about what someone else wrote, okay? A practitioner is me. I put myself in hell, lived in it for a long time, and figured out how the human mind works while suffering, while in pain, while in misery. And that's how I wrote my book.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you exactly what your mind is thinking. Most of us don't stay in hell long enough to write the book.
Yeah.
I stayed in long enough to write it and finish the book. So I call it in my book here, it's called The Accountability Mirror, but it's called raw accountability.
Yeah.
Not just accountability where we find that nice happy word. If you're fat, and you look in the mirror and you say, wow, I eat a little too much. No, you're fucking fat. Cannot say that to yourself.
No.
But see, you have to make a list of the things that you don't like to do. This list should be very long. Like if you don't like making calls.
Yeah. Yep.
The very first thing you should do is start making a shit ton of fucking calls.
Yep.
Because why? That begins to own you.
Yes.
You start to drive yourself this way versus this way. But you'll figure out, if you start making a whole bunch of fucking calls, if you like calling, call a lot.
Yeah.
Guess what happens?
You get over it.
You get over it. So what we do a lot is, I heard a lot of people say, triple down on this, triple down on most of your strength.
Yeah.
No. That works for a lot of things. But when you're afraid and you don't have the courage, you have to triple down on your weaknesses and make that become where you start to guide yourself. Okay, I don't like calling. Today I'm making 100 calls.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dial 100 times. When I was younger, life and society made this big world with all these endless fucking possibilities.
Yep.
Endless possibilities. My life made my possibilities this fucking big.
Yep.
Because it made me afraid of all these different things.
Yeah.
So all this stuff trapped my mind, it shackled my brain, it made me a prisoner within my own self, saying, this is all I can do. Because why? I'm afraid of this, I'm insecure over here, I got self-doubt over here, that behind me, good Lord, who knows what's behind me? I'm not gonna look behind me. So your life is this big. Versus it being like, I can do all this shit out here if I start to break down these these different walls and barriers. And that's what I started realizing. I could become a Navy SEAL. I could become this, but I was afraid of the water. Think about this.
I know.
Why the fuck are you gonna go be a Navy SEAL when all you do is play in the water?
Yeah.
And we don't play, we're in it and we're living in it.
You're tying
the
knots,
ocean.
you're swimming for
That's
miles.
Right. The ocean is unforgiving.
Yep. Yeah.
So my mind is, I'm gonna go be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
If I didn't face that fear, no one would ever know me. I was number 3 behind Michelle Obama for a long time until my book sold out.
Yeah.
And I was a guy just 21 years ago who was 300 pounds, could barely read and write, and now I have a book just 2 spots behind Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Just because I was afraid.
Yeah.
But you overcome those fears, guess what happens? The whole world, you unlock this door and everything opens back up again. So this is what I say to myself. It changes all the time. So let's say I'm training for a 100-mile race and I get to mile 50 and I feel like shit. And like everybody else, my mind gets soft. Why? Because I'm human. I'm not some damn, hybrid creature that was formed from the heavens above. No, not. Human. I suffer, I don't like it, I'm uncomfortable, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So my mind starts to get weak and we start to forget about how badass we are. I call that the cookie jar, but it's not about the cookie jar right now.
Yeah.
This is about self-talk.
Yeah.
But the cookie jar kind of goes to self-talk
Piece of
too.
it, yeah.
It's a piece of it. So basically what I do here is you have to make sure that your mind doesn't become spastic. When it's suffering, when it's in pain, all it wants to do is find the easy way out, which is usually quit. If you quit, the pain goes away immediately.
Yeah.
You gotta give yourself enough energy and fuel in your mind to stay just a little bit longer so you can talk yourself into staying for the whole thing.
Yep.
And this is how it works. Most of us never start anything cold. If you're gonna go to college, you gotta study your ass off. If you wanna run a 100-mile race, a marathon, if you wanna go be Mr. Olympia, if you wanna go be a scientist, a doctor.
Be one of the best salespeople on the planet.
You
be an
gotta
entrepreneur.
work.
You gotta work.
But this
and
is
you
what
gotta
we do.
build. You gotta build up to that.
But what happens is, in that moment when we need self-talk, when we're failing and we're in our worst spot possible,
Yep.
we forget the front end, all the build up to where we're at today. We forget that we put years, maybe not into making these dials, but to getting where you're at today.
To become this person.
To become this person, to be in a position to make this money or whatever the fuck you want to make, whatever you want to do in your life.
Yeah.
We forget that. We forget that journey on what it took for us to get in this moment to make the right decision.
Yeah.
So that's my self-talk is this. Okay, I want to get the fuck out of here, man. I'm done. Then I remember this. You ran 2,000 miles training to be in this moment right now. We forget that.
Yep.
We forget the 3 o'clock in the morning runs or getting up early for work or whatever you're doing. We forget all that. In that moment of suffering, I remind myself,
Yeah.
I only have 50 more miles. I put in 6 months of training. So what I do, my self-talk is basically going back down memory lane.
Yeah.
Of all those fucked up days, I ran in the fucking rain or I had to fucking study real late at night and I didn't want to do it, but I did it to get here.
Yeah. That's the hook.
That is the hook.
That's the hook.
I wanted to get here.
Yeah.
Now you're here and now you want to fucking quit?
Yeah.
So you gotta remind yourself, but this thing about it, if you haven't put in any hard work to reflect on, you're fucked. People want to be all positive, all this positive talk, it doesn't work if it's a lie. Like, if you didn't study for your big exam and you go into it saying, I'm gonna pass it,
Yep.
no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're gonna fucking fail it.
Yeah.
That self-talk is not gonna work. Self-talk without real work is just a lie.
Yeah.
So my self-talk is me reminiscing back on the struggle to get to this moment.
Yeah.
And that tells me we're not quitting today.
Yeah.
Not today. So basically you have to put yourself in the moment a million times while I'm sitting here. First of all, it takes total quietness. We live in a world that's so busy and so active and moving so fast. Right now, I am sitting with Tom Ferry.
Yeah.
My mind is sitting with Tom Ferry.
Yeah.
It's not talking to Tom Ferry while thinking about, my God, I gotta order some more books, I'm sold out of here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. That's the first thing about visualization.
Yeah.
You must make sure to silence out all the fucking bullshit of life, which is very hard to do.
It is very hard.
Because your visual picture must be clear as shit. It has to be clear. It can't be like kind of in and out like a fuzzy TV. You gotta see it. It has to become real. You gotta take a snapshot of it a million times, put in the bank. That snapshot of me was getting that 4,021 pull-up knocked out because the record was 4,020.
Yeah.
I visualized that over and over and over again. So I visualized success. But then I went through, that's the fun part.
Yeah.
I have to do 4,020 pull-ups to get to that 4,021 pull-up.
Yeah.
I know now, because it took me 3 chances to get it. All those failures, they were great for me to examine where I was fucking up at along the way. So I take all that and I put in the bank as far as visualization. Okay, when I get to 2,500 pull-ups, my hands start to rip. Okay, I get ready for that. So I started visualizing, how am I gonna handle the pain? Okay, then you start visualizing, okay, my nutrition was off. You start visualizing all these things because you have to mimic it a million times, but I can't mimic 4,020 pull-ups by doing it.
But you can see all the milestones where you failed.
That's right.
And see yourself going beyond it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that was my big thing about, I had to walk in, get the chalk, I had to see everything over and over and over again. And when I realized I had to keep that visual, that picture in my head for 17 hours. It took me 17 hours to break that record. Yeah. So for 17 hours, while I used to be loud everywhere I went, I put these headphones in. Yeah. And I never listened to music, but I listened to one song, Going the Distance, for 17 hours. It's 2 minutes and 13 seconds.
Yeah.
For 17 hours, I had that in.
That's a lot of Rocky.
A lot of Rocky. And I just went here.
Yeah.
And so I was able to visualize every rep.
Yeah.
So I visualized my hand placement, making sure that felt right before I got going. I didn't ignore all the little pains. My hands got sweaty. Okay, that means I was aware of everything. That means my hand's about to rip. It's getting sweaty. Wipe it off. Be aware. Everything. I was totally in the moment because of how I visualized everything.